Okay, it starts. Good. I'm going to start recording. Okay, we're good to go.
Is there a script I follow for this?
Yes, I emailed it to everybody yesterday.
I'm sorry.
I'll re-email it.
Okay, let me. Okay, I'm sorry about that.
I just resent it.
I have it here. I call this budget workshop meeting of January 31st, 2022 to order at 7:05 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty
and justice for all.
Please read the statement regarding the Open Public Meetings Act.
This budget workshop meeting was called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. Notice of this meeting was published in the record on January 27th, 2022. In addition, a copy of the notice was posted on the city's website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk on aforementioned date. Notice on the bulletin board has remained continuously posted. Please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 at C, and Local Finance Notice 2020-21 establishing standard protocols, the City Council of the City of Englewood adopted resolution number 028-01-18-22, authorizing the City of Englewood schedule of council budget workshop meetings for 2022 to be held remotely via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so by calling or clicking on the link below at 7 p.m. Please see the link on our website or by dialing 929-205-6099. The meeting ID for this meeting is 811-7250-4726 and the passcode is 709329. Individuals calling into this number will be able to fully participate in the meeting, including providing public comment. Public comments may be submitted by 3 p.m. on the date of the meeting, either through a written letter or email to the meeting at cityofenglewood.org. All written comments shall be read during the public forum portion of the meeting and shall be subject to the same time limitations for public speaking. Duplicative comments shall be noted for the record and summarized. The agenda for the meeting can be found on the city's website at www.cityofenglewood.org. A separate meeting will be used if the closed session is required. Proper notice having been given, the municipal clerk is directed to include the statement in the minutes of this meeting.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Cobb?
Here.
Councilman Cohen is not here. Councilman Hamer?
Here.
Councilwoman Marin?
Here.
Council President Rosenzweig.
Here.
Also present is Mayor Michael Wiles, City Manager Sonia Alves Riveros, CFO Michael Kaufman, and Franz Volsi is also not here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Should I promote the municipal court, or Sonia, how do you want to proceed? Okay. I'm going to promote the court panelists.
If you want, I could just give a brief introduction to the budget itself.
Yes,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Council President.
is that okay with you, Ms. Alves Riveros?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
It would be prudent that Mr. Kaufman introduce the budget and what we've worked through since September. And present from the court, could we just announce who is present, Yanti?
From the court, we have Judge Aisha Rasul, Court Administrator Debian Barr, and Deputy Court Administrator Jackie Bland.
Okay, thank you.
Let me know when to promote them.
Well, why does Mr. Kaufman start, and then we'll promote them in a few minutes.
Michael, my father's Mr. Okay. First, the city manager and I worked very hard on the budget to bring it under 2%, which it is. It's under 2% tax increase. Revenues are up 9.61%. Most of that is, it involves a few things. One is the hospital fee that the hospital now gives $550,000, give or take, for a year. That's going to be in our budget from now on. It's instead of taxes. It's a state mandated fee per bed. It's charged, so it's non-negotiable. It is what it is. We end up receiving around $550,000 a year. So that helped our revenues go up $550,000. We had an increase in engineering revenue, $135,000 that we never had before. So that also increased our revenues. And in the coming year, we expect that to be a lot higher. Recreation fees, was an increase of $190,000 due to prior year COVID. So this year was higher, less cases. Appropriations were up 4%, and those are mainly insurance. Our health insurance went up $844,000. Mainly, though, that was the retiree health insurance. Their health insurance itself went up 30%, and I confirmed it with the state, and I double confirmed it because that's a very high number. Went up 30%. So insurance itself went up $845,000. The pension, the PFRS, went up $300,000, and the DPW went up 12%, which is $700,000. So their budget went up $700,000. So if you add all those together, it's almost $2 million, which the whole increase was $2.7 million. So those were the biggest increases to the expenses. Besides for that, that's basically what we're at. So we're still at 1.99%. We're still under 2%, and our surplus is up. Even with what COVID happened, I'll send around in the next few days to the council a surplus, what we anticipate the surplus to be for the following year. We're doing the financials now. It's not due to the state until March, so we have some time, but we'll have those numbers for you in the next couple of days. Surplus is up, that's for sure, over last year, fund balance or surplus. So the city is in a lot better state than it was every year as we go on. The city's in a better state, and I'm pretty happy with the budget.
All right, great. Okay, so can we promote the court?
Mr. Volsi's also here. I'm having a hard time promoting him, so as soon as he can log out and log back in, I'll also let him in.
Council President, what I would just like, so we could kind of keep things as scheduled, just to hit the points here. Each department, they're going to present to you exactly what their appropriated budget, what happened in 2021 and what they're requesting in 2022. Basically, what's presented to the council this evening is what Mr. Kaufman and I tried to, at the very least, keep below that 2% average. So there were some changes from what department heads originally requested. Again, I would give the floor to the department heads to present exactly what their department looked like, their goals, objectives. We do not talk about personnel requests. Those do not get discussed publicly. And the only other thing that we would discuss is capital requests. We have our city engineer here. We are going to have a separate session also just to discuss at length the capital requests that are put by department heads, and of course then all of the other infrastructure that the city engineer is recommending. So just wanted to kind of lay that out.
Okay, thank you.
And just for the record, City Engineer Franz Volsi is present.
All right, so who's going to start?
Guess I will. How are you this evening? Good evening.
Hi, Joe. How are you? Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Good
And
evening.
good evening, Mayor Wiles, City Councilman Cobb and Hamer, as well as Michael Kaufman and Sonia. It's good to see you guys in these terrible times that we have and good times that we're having. But what I really wanted to address is the fact that there are some changes to the municipal court based on the new referendum of the Bail Reform Act and marijuana. I think I've discussed that several times before with you. So that brought some of our income and expense, our income down, although our expenses stay the same. As it pertains to the gross revenues for 2021, and this was done up until September, we dispersed the sum of $207,234.68 to the city of Englewood, which in the past we have dispersed much more. But what I'm really, and this is all part of the narrative, what I'm really concerned about right now is the fact that we are about to lose members of our Mr. Cohen is on now. Good evening, Mr. Cohen. What I'm really concerned about right now is that we're about to lose one of our violation clerks because the salary is very low. As a matter of fact, he's going to another city and he will be making $52,000 as opposed to the $34,000 that he is currently making now. So my question is whether or not the court actually had a surplus at some point, which went back to the city, so that we can increase some of these salaries, because we're about to lose not only that violation clerk and have the need to hire a new violations clerk, but we're about to lose the second violation clerk as well, because my understanding, he is also looking to move along. So I have a suggestion. I received some numbers this afternoon, which I was kind of concerned about. They came in at 3:34 p.m. this afternoon in terms of a raise for 3 people in the court. And that's fine, but the raise seems mediocre and
Judge, we
Yeah.
can't discuss the personnel or merit increases
okay.
for individuals, even to that note.
Well, can we discuss the number, maybe the bottom line figure for a raise for the individuals? Not
We cannot.
person, not
No, we
person.
cannot.
Okay. All right, so we won't discuss that. However, we do have some problems with that. Moving right along, as it pertains to capital, we discussed some capital improvements that are needed, and that is with the carpet being removed, that there also is a problem with the roofing, because there are leaks in several places. We will not be able to have people in the courtroom per se when it's raining or snowing and we have leaks coming in through the front door. All of this must be repaired because it's going to cause mold as it pertains to the leaks. In addition, we asked for additional new file cabinets, carpeting, file cabinets, and there's something else. Oh, new desks for the office, because the desks that we have now are very poor. They're poor condition right now, very poor condition. In fact, if you get too close to the desk, you will have, sometimes you get caught, your clothing gets caught and it gets ripped. And people also get scarred because the finger gets trapped inside the file cabinet. File cabinets are falling out of place. So we have a serious situation with that right now. And Ms. Barr, do you have anything to add?
I don't know if the council have any question in regard to the budget. I mean, apart from you can discuss the raises. And like you said, we are losing Tabish, and the other staff is also he's interviewing to leave. So it's gonna really put a damper on the court for us to, we have to post the job. I know the division manager posted the job already, and we switch it over to bilingual violation clerk. So since we're having issues with that, with union and all the problems that the staff had raised, it's a big issue there. Big issue for me to be losing 2 good staff because there is no recompense. Nobody's saying anything to them. And
Ms. Barr, if I may, we've spoken at length. So part of the issue was, in fact, the negotiations that took as long as they did we hopefully are reaching an amicable settlement with regard to the, I would say, the category in which the violations clerk are at. Your
Yeah.
request for the violations clerk 2, that does need to get changed and placed into the salary ordinance, because they would be no longer in a union. So we need to discuss with the council at a workshop meeting to make that recommendation to have a violations clerk 2 in the salary ordinance. Once that is done, we can then discuss the salary range, and that would probably make it a lot more competitive for those looking to come into the court. I believe that would be the best solution to make that work for you.
Yeah, that would be the best solution to re-evaluate the scale, the pay scale. It's terrible. You know, people have to depend on one paycheck. They have to hold that paycheck till the next paycheck to pay their rent. It's horrible, you know? So, you know, it's a lot of complaints on that end. I don't know, with the furniture, the carpet really that has to get up this year. We have to remove the carpet. That's number one. And then the furniture, I mean, I know we've been asking for a window. In there is very stifling and we can't really breathe in there. We have a lot of humidifier in place, but still it doesn't, people have their breathing equipment on their desk, you know, trying to breathe. So these are the things we've been speaking about for years, not just now, but from a long time ago. So these are some of the things that we need to address. And, you know, and dealing with other parts, like with tickets. And if you have any question in regard to the work, we'll accept some questions on that.
So what's the projected revenue for 2022?
Well, this year, as you could see, the total ending, let me see. Well, it depends on how the police officers write tickets. Okay, the written tickets. I know there's a lot of.
What's the projected, or what's in the budget? Obviously, we know.
I mean, how much money we are gonna make? Is that what you're asking? How much money you think is coming in?
What you're putting in as collected gross revenues?
Well, you know what? It's really hard to tell because it's probably going to be very similar to 2021 until we get some changes, some amendments to the Bail Reform Act and also to the Drug Act. Because the arrests that are being made, we no longer can collect certain fees. So I would assume that it would probably be very similar to what we had in 2021.
Michael, I think you had said that there was an increase.
Yeah, let me just go, if you want me to go through the past few years, I can tell you what we collected each year.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
So in 2017, we collected 646,000. In 2018, we collected 640,000. In 2019, we collected 583,000. In 2020, we collected 315,000. And in 2021, we collected 290,000.
And I think that's probably what we're going to collect again.
Right, it's COVID. People, you know, we're doing Zoom court, and
So what did we budget for 22?
396. So what I did was I did the last 3 years, I did the
Yeah,
averages, which you're allowed to do.
Yeah.
You're still allowed to do. So that's the only one I did for all the revenues. The 3-year average was court. Everything else I kept what it was the previous year, or what it was collected, close to.
One thing, I actually might have asked this last year, but I don't remember. The credit card machine, how is that a revenue generator?
that's what we depend on now because of Zoom court. So people would call in and pay their fines. So that's a good thing that we have that. Else we wouldn't know how to collect the money. People would come to the.
I'm sorry. Is the revenue their fines, or do we get a separate revenue from using the machine?
No, it's
No,
the
those
same.
are the fines. Those are the fine payments. After each
Okay.
case is called, people call the court and advise them how they're going to pay the fines. And that's how we generate the fine payments.
Okay. All right. So that's not a separate revenue line. That's part of the overall revenue.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a fee to use that credit card machine for the,
Yes,
People who
there is a fee. They have to pay merchant service from a certain account. It cannot come out of the court general account. There is a separate account that Diana had set up in finance so that the merchant service, they get their fees from that account. There is like, procedures and rules. You cannot take any money out of the court's general account or bail account at all. Yeah.
does any member of the council have questions?
No.
I just want to reiterate, I had a tour with the judge, and I appreciate your time, Judge, and the care that you took to spend time with me. And I saw for myself those clipped ends of the file cabinet. The air was stale, and just the sheer volume of people and paper. The flooding that occurred, and just the cleaning of the carpet because there's no padding underneath, and just the unkempt, not the way people keep their desks, but the conditions of living in a 1970s facade with leaks and everything abound. Something has to be done to improve that. And I appreciate again, Judge, that you took me around.
You're welcome.
Have we
Question.
got a schedule as far as when the renovation will begin?
Ms. Marin, once the council adopts the budget and then adopts the capital ordinance, we can then proceed with planning and coordinating, getting quotes and things like that. So I would hope that this summer we could start doing that stuff, or sooner. But Ms. Barr did her due diligence and she did get the quotes. She's worked on that. So hopefully the vendors will honor that and we can proceed accordingly.
That's great. Thank you.
Mr. Hamer, I think you had
I have a question. With regard to the administration of the court, could you talk us through at a high level the changes that have come place? I know you mentioned the changes to bail reform and that impact on the court. Could you talk us through that a little bit, just so that we can, well, at least I can understand what you're facing?
The majority of the municipal court cases that used to come in were primarily marijuana possession, marijuana sales. And as you know, marijuana is now legalized somewhat, and we no longer arrest young men or young women for possession of marijuana. We do from time to time have drug possession cases for heroin, for methamphetamines, phenol. We do have those, but they're very few and far between. And we used to have a lot of motor vehicle stops as well for and found in many cases the marijuana and in the vehicle. So when you lose that legalized marijuana, you end up losing what we call the $500 deeder fee, which is a deterrence issued by the state for each and every defendant. You lose the $75 safe neighborhood fee. You lose the crime victims compensation board fee of $50. You lose the court cost fee of $33. And now the additional $7 by state. So you can, if you just add that up and multiply that by 10, you'll see that you have already lost quite a significant amount of revenue to the city and to the state. Right now, we do have a lot of restraining order requests, temporary restraining order requests, which people call. They have they go to the police station to file those, and they can do that 24 hours a day. If they go to the police station to request a restraining order after 5 o'clock, then the police department will call the judge who's on duty. Generally, that's me or Judge Letty, and we will hopefully find, sometimes we don't want to find, but we find that the person does need a temporary restraining order. And then that case will go forward to the Superior Court if those people want a permanent restraining order. We are getting more of those cases than anything right now. And in addition, we also are receiving citizen complaints. Now, those complaints generally are filed in the municipal court itself. Sometimes people will go over to the police station and file those complaints. But when they do that, a lot of times they don't actually have an opportunity to sign the actual complaint. And then the complaint will come back to the municipal court for signage. Once those complaints are signed, they will go up to the Superior Court for a review. And then many times they come back to us. But those are few and far between now. And if we do receive those complaints and it's a neighborly complaint, we don't handle those complaints. We send them to mediation. And if the mediator can't work them out, which they always seem to work out those kind of complaints from neighbor to neighbor, then they will return to us. And then by the time they get to us, we either try the case or dismiss it because now the parties are getting along. So that's why our caseload is not the same. But we do need help from the police department because the police department still has to issue traffic violations. And they have not been doing so, I heard, because, many of the young men are afraid of COVID. And I understand that. But at the same time, those traffic tickets will be very helpful because they had come with various fines. One of the fines that we find very useful is the fine from the state of New Jersey for unsafe driver. That is a $150 fine with $250 that automatically goes to the state of New Jersey, $33 court cost with a $7 assessment. So that $150 fine that we receive for that unsafe driver, that fine will come back to the city as well. And generally, Mr. Horatio is very good at looking at the abstracts and determining whether people should get use that particular unsafe driver vehicle. He's very good at getting that.
Avoid points typically?
Excuse me?
And that's to avoid points typically?
To avoid points, right. You can use that two times, but the third time, if you have to use it within 5 years, then you get all the points that you avoided from the first and second. So most people will utilize the unsafe. So those are the various ways that we can make money for the city, but we really need the traffic tickets right now. I do believe that this year the legislature will be looking at the Bail Reform Act because we've had some serious issues with that, and they will be reviewing some of the issues with the marijuana. They're very some of the rules that we have with the marijuana situation are not very helpful, especially for police officers when you have individuals who are under the age of 18 years old. The first time you attempt to assist a juvenile, you cannot call the parent and advise them that their child was smoking marijuana. A lot of people are up in arms about that, especially the police officers. In addition, if it's the second time and they're 16 years old, only thing a police officer can do at that point is give them a brochure about the dangers of smoking marijuana. However, once they come back at the age of 16 for a third time, then now you can advise the parents, and everybody's up in arms about that. So I do believe this year we're going to see some changes in the Marijuana Act.
Also, can I add the FTA? I'm still doing 2020 work because they had put a big stop on the 2020 and 2019. Now I'm sending out FTA notices, which is generating thousands of dollars of stamps. So when I send out like 1,000 a week, I mean, I'm still going backwards to move forward. And not just us, almost all the courts are doing all of this. They're having us making changes with marijuana, like time payment. They want us to go in. If you have 10 cases that was attached to that marijuana, they want us now to go into the system to detach 9 cases take out the marijuana case. Then we have to go back in and set up the other 9 cases back on time payment, generate new notices, generate new orders, and then we have to send them out. It's a lot of work. We are doing triple, when I say quadruple work, it's like unbelievable. It doesn't stop. Every day is an upgrade to the EMAC system. Every day is a new procedure. Every day they want us to change it, do it this way, do it that way. It is like overwhelming, so, and the staff are really working hard. Like, people don't even take lunches sometimes. So, keep up with the calendar, the adjournment. We got to take all the email addresses when they call. We got to get their phone number so they could get the Zoom ID. Sometimes people don't have a phone number. The elderlies are, I'm telling you, the elderlies, we have a lot of issue. They cannot come to court. They showed up in the lobby. We have to help log them on Zoom. We have to go outside, take their phones while the court door is closed and we're having court sessions. My staff are in the lobby helping the elderly how to log on. It's just a lot. It doesn't stop. So,
Mr. Volsi, just to get back to the capital improvements. So obviously you've been to the court to assess everything that's been discussed tonight?
Yes, I've been down to the court a number of times.
And were there any improvements discussed tonight that are not going to be in the capital budget?
Well, the one thing that we have to, that I wasn't made privy to it, is the desk and the file cabinet. I know about the rug, I know about the leak, obviously, I know about those issues. But that is something we can certainly look at and see what can be done. But that
was there any damage from the Ida?
yes, you come
Yes.
to it came all the way in through where I work. It came under the carpet. It passes through the office, through the back room, and boxes of cases just got wet up. It's just soaked. And it
So
stinks.
Franz, is there any FEMA money for some of this work?
But that we are actually working with Millennium Strategies to put together a listing of, either buildings, infrastructure, whatever the case may be that was impacted by Ida. So there's definitely something we can look into adding to that list.
We haven't had a paint job in 23 years since I've been there. They haven't painted. It's horrible. Nothing.
So anyone else on the council with questions for the court? We're a little bit behind schedule now.
I have a question. When are we then going to discuss the raises, since we cannot discuss it here? Are we going to have a separate meeting, close, in regards to what took place today at 3:30? What we got in an email?
Ms. Barr, you and I can have a conversation.
Okay.
Okay,
And the judge, if the 3 of us. Okay.
of course,
Yeah.
of course. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, so thank you so much for coming tonight and informing us about the challenges you're facing. And I'm glad we'll be able to take care of some of them in the coming year.
I hope so. Yeah, we need it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good
Okay.
evening. And
You
You
too.
too.
Have
Stay
a good
safe.
evening. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Next is recreation. Should I bring Merle up?
yes, please.
I can.
Good evening. Can everyone
Hi,
hear me?
Ms. Simmons, how are you?
Simon.
Excuse me, Simons.
Um, Good evening, all. Thank you for having me this evening. I just want to point out some of the highlights as to when I was crafting our budget as to what it was that we were looking for. As you know, everyone with COVID was affected. We started to bounce back a little bit with revenue with some programs in person, but we primarily focused, and we're still working on, because we're still in the midst of COVID, is delivering food. So we're still doing that, and we have several sources in which we are doing that. We have the outdoor pantry, which is Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. We normally get that food from ShopRite. So from last January up until now, we have serviced 590 families who actually come pick up whatever they need from ShopRite on Monday, Wednesdays at the McKay Breezeway. We get frozen meals for the seniors, which is from the Community Food Bank of New Jersey. And to date, the entire year, we've had 7,825 meals that we have delivered. And we also get from the Community Food Bank of New Jersey weekend packs, which are for a family of 4. And from January up until now, again, that's 4,390 meals that we deliver to these homes. From December up until April last year, we delivered 1,350 quarantine meals. Once the health department would reach out to us and say certain families, a family of 5, family of 10, family of 6 needs meals, so we would pack that food and deliver it to their doorstep. That went up until last April. Grab and Go, which we combined or did with Board of Ed and Community Food Bank. From January up until about September, we delivered Grab and Go meals, which is 2,120 meals over those months. Then we also had Diaper Delivery that we actually started in March of last year. And again, the diapers we got from Community Food Bank of New Jersey. And they started out with giving us poundage. So May, June, July was each 1,440 pounds that we delivered those months. And then they switched over to just giving us cases and a number of diapers. And that went to, did I have a total there? 8,040 diapers in September, 6,930 diapers in October, 3,465 diapers in November and December. And in January, we just got a delivery here now for 5,540 diapers that we've been dispensing to the community. We also get from Community Food Bank fresh produce that we've been receiving since February, and that was 1,098 boxes of fresh produce that again feeds a family of 4. Starting in August, combining with the feeding the front line for the seniors and others, we've delivered 1,700 hot meals. From Center for Food Action, we get snack packs from August up until January. That's 525 snack packs. From Community Food Bank, they gave us a pallet of sanitizer, which we've been using since the summer through now, and 2 pallets of water that we needed for the summer. One of our vendors, EJ Sports, has been giving us socks. So when we distribute the diapers and food meals, that we've been giving out socks, so we've given out over 1,000 socks up to date. So that was one of our focuses, in addition to adding back all of the programs and growing the revenue back. So that's where we are right now. And this year, this focus is on those who we found, well, they always had these conditions where they were struggling with the street and rent and everything else, but we don't help out with the rent. So we were looking to continue for those kids who were in the complexes, giving them free swim, making sure they have the food, employment, and everything else. So what we did now, when we just started the employment program, or we started registration for it, we started out with 20. And as of today, we set that out. I want to say it was today's Monday. So on Friday, we sent it out. Now we have 47 people already registered for the Youth at Risk, for the employment program, for the flag football, and for the basketball. And then we're setting up for free swims. We got the grant last year, which we serviced 1,300 new swimmers. That was parents, parent and toddlers, new swimmers that went all the way up. So we're also looking for grants to include the seniors this year, because we got a lot of calls as the seniors, and I shouldn't say seniors, the adults wanted swim lessons. So we put that grant in, hopefully we'll get that. We also implemented a program for those with disabilities. So we got the bumper cars and ice skating. We currently have that up and running. We had anticipated about 10 kids in it. We currently have 13. So they do the bumper cars and the ice skating at the arena. With all of that being said, we want to encourage people to come out, be out, and use our facilities. So we need capital budget for. Well, we already started with the arena doing the cleaning of the ceiling and the rafters, so that needs to continue. Restoring Denny Park basketball courts, because we did the Pay Park this past summer, and Morris Park during last year's storm. Tree limb came down and damaged the swings and stuff there. So we need to replace Morris Park play structure. And what else do we have? Oh, and our lifeguarding. That's another program we started. We're looking to have the lifeguards, to train lifeguards here in Englewood, especially community kids, so they can have a job for the sea pools. And we currently have 8 kids who are registered for that, and we need 10 positions for both McKay and Tryon. Well, I know it's a lot, so.
So Ms. Simons, I noticed your revenue is up quite a bit this year. What do you attribute that to, or the projected revenue?
Well, based on last year when we slowly rolled out, for instance, the camp, we would normally have about 200 kids. We only took half that amount. With the arena, again, we rolled out slowly, so the numbers with that was low. So we're just rolling out, trying to keep it safe. So as things start to open up, then we'll have more spaces. So I believe that the revenue looking to jump is because we're going to increase the number of participants and programs that we're having that are in person. 2020, a lot of the programs were still virtual or smaller numbers. We didn't even run the after school program last year at all. So we're back at the after school program. So since September to December, we have maybe about 40,000 that we picked up there. So, and that'll run 10 months. So with these things coming back online, that's where the projection will probably come from, is that a lot of these programs are coming back online.
I noticed you have an information session every Tuesday, I guess a
Yeah.
Zoom call. How many people usually sign into that?
4, 0 to 4. So it's increased from 0. We're up to 4 now.
Okay. 4 different people each time, or is it the 4 same people?
4 the same.
Okay.
4 the same.
Does anyone on the council have questions for Ms. Simons?
Simons, Could you-
I have,
could you talk to us about the things, the challenges that you have not being able to provide in-person recreation offerings to residents, and you seem to be adapting, and I know I'm grateful for that, but because there is a real need. But could you talk for a little bit about what that means to you?
The challenges that we have in offering in person.
Yes, or not being able to provide in-person offerings.
Well, that was prior to April, when we were still shut down, and in April we started to we focused primarily doing stuff outdoors where we could have larger numbers. So even that, we kept the numbers small so that we can have it staffing. The indoor is the biggest issue. Keeping up with the COVID protocol, the sanitizing, having the kids wear the mask, being closed in, and we don't have any indoor facilities of our own. So when we're after school, we brought back basketball, we brought back our soccer and things of that nature. So the numbers are really small, where we probably would have had 100 kids. We're limited to like maybe 50 or 30 or 20 at a time in the gym, just so we can have the social distancing. Staffing, again, we may have enough staff, but again, just to make sure we have proper coverage and everything else, we reduce the number of staff, we reduce the number of participants, and then as things grow and open up, then we can add more staff. But right now, we're erring on the side of safety. But it's much easier to do programming when we're outdoors than it is indoors. Even with our after-school program, we spend a great deal of time outside doing outdoor cooking, building go-karts. So as much stuff, even in the winter, as much stuff we can do outside, we're outside as opposed to being inside.
Thank you.
Ms. Maron,
can you hear-
like,
I have-
yeah.
Yes, can you hear me? Listening to all the involvement of the recreation department in food distribution and meal distribution, I don't know why. I just thought of has anybody brought up the idea of starting a community garden where we could? Gardening is very physical, so a lot of seniors are interested in it, as well as children. Any thought being given to developing a program of gardening, community gardening, where we could grow vegetables that we could eventually distribute in the community?
I have not. I know there are other groups in town that have community gardens. Years ago, in the camp, we used to do a garden for the campers and then let them do that. And then we would take the food up to Office of Concern at St. Cecilia. So any of the fresh produce, we would do that. But we, as you said, that's something that someone has to turn that over, till it, plant it, and groom it. So we do not have people right now that we can do it. We use the kids in the summertime so we can maintain it, but to do year round or and the seasonal, not during the winter, but even in the winter, you would start your little seedlings, but we do not have to do that.
Well, you think there would be any interest in that? Because my guess is there may be some grants around. People are very involved in, environmental projects and using, back to the earth, growing our own food and being able to. Do you think someone could be interested in developing it?
I think it might be a good senior
not.
program. Like you said, a lot of the seniors like to do like the plantings and stuff like that. So I think that could be a program that we can, or even intergenerational, where you have seniors and some of the younger kids doing it. So it could be an intergenerational program.
Yeah.
Ms. Simon,
Okay. Thank you.
just to add on, I'm sorry, Mr. Cobb, just to add on to what you're saying, there are two gardens already underway. One on Lafayette and Genesee, and the other at 3rd Street. And the 111 West Street is envisioning having a garden once they're back up and running. And so there are community garden efforts already established, but the pandemic put a damper on a lot of that activity. But that doesn't mean that others can't get into the game as well.
Right.
Thanks, Mr. Cobb.
Well, you answered the question. Ms. Simon, I just have a question for you. Obviously, the services that you provided were second to none to this community. How many kids learned how to swim under you this past summer? In your swim program?
1,355 participants is what we had for this summer.
Okay, are we going to do that this year again?
We did put in for another grant. We also requested to increase it to include the adults who want to swim. So that is something that I did put into the budget, anticipating that we would include that again this year.
I'd like to, for you and Mr. Volsi, since you're both on the line, and the city does have some financial means for this, working with the hospital. We have people that are very active in doing exercises in McKay Park as well as Denning Park.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we should have exercise equipment in all our parks, and partner with the Inglewood Hospital on it. But I think you and Mr. Volsi should sit down and look into that, because people are using the swings and all the other equipment that are really equipment for the kids. They're using it as exercise equipment, and there are a lot of people that want to exercise. For us that go to those parks and look at them, I think that's important. That's a good message to the community, that we're giving some back to the community, as opposed to not. And I think that health and exercise and all that would be a good message for this community.
I think one is slated to go, I think the health department had funding to put one into
Right.
Midway Park. And I believe that the sponsor and I had spoke before in regards to, I think it was a grant we were looking at to put exercise equipment in various parks. But again, I guess I have to go back and speak to sponsor because I don't remember where we left that.
Ms. Simons, there's also a mayor's wellness campaign that's run through the, I believe the governor's office. You might want to look into.
Okay.
It's specific to obviously health initiatives for municipalities.
And that's through the governor's office?
The
Yes.
League of Municipalities.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'll check into that.
May I ask a question? Is it okay? Thank you.
Of course.
So, just from a pure financial budget metric, separate, if you can, the youth at risk, the flag football, the use of the exercise equipment, even diaper delivery, and so forth. The food and that was given out, the outdoor pantries, the food bank, the quarantine meals to doorsteps, the grab and go, and also the community food bank. How much did all of this food cost the rec department this last year? And how much do you anticipate next year?
$0.
Where did it all come from?
Community Food Bank in New Jersey. Being that we, in the past, I would say the past 15, 20 years, we have been a participant in the summer feeding program because Englewood qualifies. We have so many kids that qualify for free and reduced lunch. So we have always been a participant in the summer feeding. Being that we were a partner agency, this was given to us because they knew our community needed this. So this is stuff that we continue.
Thank you. What cost do you attribute to the distribution of this as far as personnel, rec department vehicles, and all of that? Last year, vis-a-vis what you anticipate this year?
Because of that, we had the one vehicle that we were moving stuff around. We had a second one. I did request last year for another vehicle so that we can move it around, but because of the shortage in vehicles, we could not get it. So I was requesting that it been in capital to get another vehicle so we can move it around. And we took our part-time staff and gave her the title of community feeding coordinator. So that took up additional hours and stuff for her to get this food and stuff around. So, and our park rangers also assist with it. So we kind of like shifted them over when we weren't really running programs. We actually shifted them to actually do this.
Thank you. And ultimately, are you able to work with Millennium Strategies? This is really a question for our city manager to look for other sources, other resources that the community might need, also free of charge of the taxpayers of the community. Is that something that they provide or you coordinate with?
Usually, Melanie, when she has programs or grants, that she feels that we qualify for, she'll send them to me, or vice versa. If I run across something, I'll send it to her and say, okay, do we qualify this, and can we apply for it? So that's how we've been working so far.
And none of these resources or food products or materials are competing with the Bergen Family Center or the community chest or any of the other groups that are doing. These are all additional resources, right?
There are additional resources, and sometimes those agencies contact us looking for food or something. So we send to them as well.
All right. So just in the back of your list, let's see what we can do together in the coming year in the local businesses if they want to support some of the blind spots or other things, also at zero cost to the taxpayers. And I'll help you if you like. Okay.
Thank you. And I know ShopRite has been in there with us, so the outdoor pantry is food that we get from ShopRite.
Thank you.
How many vans does the rec department have?
One good one and one that's put together with bubble gum.
And some duct tape too, right?
No, I think the gum is working better than the duct tape.
Okay. And how many seater is the good van?
I'm sorry,
How many seats in the good van?
Ay, ay, ay.
it's 15.
Okay. Is a new van part of the capital budget for the rec center,
It was-
for the rec
it was-
department?
It was in last year's, but we weren't able to get it. We did put the PO in for it, but we couldn't get it because the dealers did not have, they had a shortage of vehicles. So
Yeah.
we put it
Okay.
back in this year because we need it.
So is the bad van even usable, or is it?
It is, but it cannot travel outside the city limits. So when we go like around town, and it's more like our pickup truck, if you will.
Okay.
There's no seats in it or anything like that. So that's where we throw a lot of the boxes and stuff that we have to deliver, to the various complexes.
Okay. Any other questions from Ms. Simons? All right. Well, thank you, Merle.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Uh-huh.
Look
Have
for
a
you in
good
your
night.
gray Hyundai. Yeah.
Merle, I sent you
night.
the link for the mayor's wellness campaign.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next is the police department. Deputy Chief, was there someone else you wanted on with you, or is it just you presenting?
I'll just be myself tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us. So just to start off, as far as our expectations moving into 2022, finishing up with COVID, still working through that here as a police department, as a city, with the retirement of our chief and the supersession of the prosecutor's office. And then, the way our officers were tested through the storm of Ida, our officers did a phenomenal job, again, persevered through some trials. And, I think our department as a whole, we're looking forward to moving in a positive way towards the new year. As of today's date, your police department has 75 sworn officers and 28 civilian employees. Last year, we had 3 retirements and 1 officer resign. While we're going through that, we're able to hire 6 officers, which included our first special law enforcement officer, SLEO Class 2. He was just sworn in. He was actually just sworn as a probationary police officer just earlier this month. As of this time, no officers have submitted their intentions to retire as of tonight. But by the end of the year, looking at our roster, we have a total of 11 officers who are eligible to retire. So it's something we need to consider moving forward. Just to recap, last year in 2021, we recorded just under 43,000 police calls for service, which was an increase from about 16% from 2020. That was just our average calls we provide to the community, all the services we provide, crime response, deterrence, medical emergency, traffic accident responses, and criminal investigations, and community engagement. Specifically, and I have more updated numbers that you were provided with. But in 2021, we initiated 2,125 criminal cases. Our officers made 338 arrests and 39 DUI arrests, and we responded to 1,230 motor vehicle crashes. So going into the new year, and it's probably something you may have heard before, our number 1 priority is to increase our staffing and to continue to fill our table of organization. The new table of organization that we have in place, that was put in place this past summer, gives us enhanced supervision, better accountability, and establishes a good table of responsibilities for our personnel. It also, the table organization also established several new units for our department, including the firearms training unit, our bias crime unit, and our community affairs unit. Over the years, unfortunately, I've seen how inconsistent hiring can impact us long-term. In 2016, we had 6 officers hired in 2016, 1 officer hired in 2017, 0 in 2018, 4 officers hired in 2019, 0 officers hired in 2020, and then 5 in 2021. So I know it's a lot of information, but I think the key for us moving forward is to try to have consistency within our hiring. Along with that and our retirements, we've actually had, it was a surprise to me, we've had about 26 retirements since 2015. So that's kind of offset any progress we were able to make over the years. This staffing level, it hinders us a little bit from adequately fulfilling our investigations division, our juvenile unit, our traffic unit. And those are units that we need to do, to be able to provide proactive services to our city. Makes it tougher to be proactive with our criminal investigations. It restricts our ability to be able to put resource officers in schools and to have proactive traffic enforcement on the city, and ultimately to address quality of life issues in our communities. The end of the day, the more manpower we have, the more we can do. We can start doing things like directed patrols and focus on specific issues, having SROs in our schools, and even having things like getting a lot of feedback, going back to our old walking posts and bicycle patrol that we used to have. So those are things that, we'd like to do down the line once we have a little more manpower. I mentioned we were able to implement our special law enforcement officer program this year, which is very successful. For those that don't know, that's a program that allows us to have it's an officer on a part-time basis that can kind of supplement our patrol officers where needed. They work a limited amount of hours a week, but it gives us another option to use during those times. One of the big pluses that we've talked about is the fact that it gives us idea to identify potential new time hires. So our first SLEO, Josh Kim, did a great job in his job as a SLEO 2, and he was able to transition to a full-time probationary police officer. So we hope to continue that and hopefully work in some of our town residents to use that as a stepping stone to getting on the force. In summary, like I said, we want to continue hiring staff and promoting from within. We want to move forward with the police department accreditation process. We want to continue to utilize our community affairs unit to kind of begin using newer programs. We have interest in our Englewood Interfaith Council. We have, which I hope will feed into a police chaplain program. And we also want to start reaching out more to our special needs and our elderly residents. Along with that, I want to piggyback off some of the stuff that we've done in the past. Some of the programs we've used that have worked well for us. Junior Police Academy, National Night Out, Cops and Kids Day, Chief for a Day, continue building on those programs that we have with the schools, and obviously continue with our SLEO program. Going forward, we want to try to get our manpower up a little bit again. Some of our neighboring towns, some of the towns that are comparable to us, and again, you probably heard this over the years, but the Fort Lee Police Office PD is working with close to 100 officers. Hackensack and Teaneck are getting close to those areas. I think that gives them a little more ability to do some more specialized unit. So I know as a long-term plan, I'd love to get up to that area, but I'd like to at least get us a little bit closer to that in the next year or so. As far as our worksheet that was presented to you, we made very few changes from last year. We increased a couple lines for incident-based reporting system, for having a company that will assist us in reporting that information to the state. We requested an increase for our uniforms to coincide with the additional hires. Requested an increase for additional police vehicles and outfitting vehicles. Some office equipment that went over last year, we increased the line in that, and that was it. We pretty much kept everything else on our line the same as last year. That's all I have to report for right now. You have any questions?
Yeah, thank you. So not without mentioning specific people, of course, what's the typical retirement rate the first year an officer is eligible for retirement? Because obviously we've had some officers who have, had 37-year careers, but do some retire 20 years in a day?
We've had a couple officers leave at 20 years. I can think of two that have left in the last 5, 6, 7 years. I think the trend in law enforcement is for officers to do closer to 25 or 30 years. I think the days of when I came on, we have multiple officers with over 40 years on. I think that trend is going away, but it's hard to say.
So out of these 11, potentially, not too many should retire.
We have at least 5 or 6 of them are eligible right now, and the others will be by the end of the year.
Okay, but you don't anticipate too many retirements from this. It's just what we're at risk for.
It's what we're at risk for. Exactly.
Okay.
Just letting us know what's potential. Yep.
Okay. Last year, there was a lot of capital improvement that we talked about for the police department. Has that all been implemented? And Franz might also be a good.
Yeah, Franz may be a little more aware. As you know, I'm relatively new to some of this activity. So Franz may be able to chime in on some. I know the bathroom renovations they're working on that. And I know he's been in touch with Captain Della Rosa. They've been navigating the HVAC replacement and repairs. But maybe Franz may know about some of the other older ones that I'm not aware of.
Just a quick overview. I mean, as everyone knows, the pandemic sort of screwed up everybody's schedule in terms of repair. The roof repair is probably the biggest thing that's, it's impacting not only the police, but the courts, et cetera. We are still waiting for materials to come in. That project was awarded a couple months ago at this point. The contractor still hasn't been able to start. He is hoping to start in the next couple of months. At least that's kind of the feedback that he's getting, that the suppliers are hoping to get something in their, in their stocks, hopefully this month hopefully in February or March. So that's when he's hopefully going to start that project. The HVAC project, that's probably gonna, fall back to next year, unfortunately. The bathroom project is still moving on. We're speaking with the architect and to get that finalized and going forward. So a couple of things that are still, unfortunately, still in the frying pan, still working on, and hopefully this year we'll be able to button those up.
I'm sorry, which project is moved to next year that you just said?
The HVAC project is probably going to get pushed back to next year.
Thank you. And Deputy Chief Greeley, has there been difficulty in recruiting new officers when there's an opening?
No, actually, we've had a good response. We were in the middle of a process looking at lateral officers already have a PTC certification, like our last hiring group, officers that can come in, make it through field training and be right on the road within a few months. So we had a great response in that, and we're kind of in the process. We're in the middle of that right now, the interview process, but we had a really good response. So I think that was a good thing. Got a lot of good applicants. It's going to be a tough decision for the city to make.
Excuse me. Was there an exam administered recently for promotion?
Yes, there was, Ms. Perrin. There was a promotion process, a written test given on the 22nd of this month. Yes.
Okay, terrific. You want to give us some idea of the percentage of people who passed, or is that not available?
The process is still underway because the next part of the process is an oral interview, and that is done through the Chiefs Association, the State Chiefs Association. So that's still pending, Ms. Marin. So we'd hope by the end of the month, know more or less where that list stands outside of of course, the written scores. So we're not ready for that quite yet.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Deputy Chief.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Just if I can, do you have any plans for an auxiliary police in the community?
I'm not aware of any plans for that. Nothing's come up recently. I think we're, I'm still getting my feet wet here. I really want to push the SLEO program. And I think that's going to be a good thing for some of our residents in the community. But that's, it's something I'm not as familiar with. I know you had experience in that back in the day, so I wouldn't mind getting a little more familiar with it. I know.
Yeah,
we've-
more eyes and
Yes.
ears on the streets, a greater presence and coordination where the officers can then be in the areas and then different seasons where you need to be. But I don't know if that was something that you were planning on. Another issue that was significantly delayed during the pandemic were firearm applications for premises.
Mhm.
People were complaining to the tune of literally over 100 emails that I got on delays. Has that been more speedy in accordance with state protocols and everything?
Yes, absolutely. We've assigned some, we're able to assign a few more resources to that. And I can tell you for sure, I've been signing off on them since I've been in my position on a constant basis. I've been getting some older ones, some more recent ones. So they're definitely moving through the process a lot faster. So I think we're working through that issue.
And finally, we see the world kind of being upside down and houses of worship now being targets. I know that there are several churches and synagogues that were able to get Homeland Security funding and active shooter kind of training and everything. Is there an effort when you talk about interfaith and bringing people together to help the different denominations, different faiths prepare themselves in this new normal, as it were?
Mhm. Yeah, of course. In my position, working with our emergency services unit previously, we've been in touch with different houses of worship throughout the city. Obviously, we're always available if they, need assistance. I know there's a great circle of connections that they have, and they exchange information. So, we're always open for that. But it's something, again, as I get more acclimated to my role, I want to build upon that and offer our services, wherever they can be, to any house of worship in town.
Thank you, Chief.
Any other questions? So let me just go back to one. I know you reported a 16% increase in police calls. What you might not have this information, but would you estimate what the effect of Ida was and the night of September 1st? Because we know there must have been thousands on that night alone. I mean, could that alone account for the variance?
I don't think so. I mean, it was a total of over 42,000 calls for service. I'm sure that was a spike. I know it was a spike. I was there that night. It was a spike. But I would just say, I would say that our numbers the previous year were probably down a little bit because of the pandemic.
So 42,000 might be more of a 2019 number?
I had my previous year's number. Forgive me for a second. I apologize. I thought I had my my 2019 and 2020 numbers, but yeah, I suspect that was probably closer to. It was probably more in line with previous years, 42,000. I think the year before was more like because of the pandemic.
All right. And I know we talked about it earlier tonight. Are there any special challenges with the new marijuana law in terms of how you evaluate people for being under the influence?
It's since it's decriminalization, it is a little bit tougher for us. Our officers are obviously following the letter of law and the guidance set forth by the state and the BCPO. We are trying to we've had officers trained as drug recognition experts previously. During COVID, those are very strict certifications to have. So during COVID, I know at least we had one of them lapsed. So again, it's one of my other things moving forward is to try to get officers trained in that. It's tougher now, and it is a big commitment for the department to have officers go through the training and get the hands-on training that's required for that. So it's something we're gonna have to navigate going forward. But our officers are, obviously complying with the decriminalization of marijuana, and they're dealing with it, as best they can.
And in terms of paperwork for gun permits and ABC licenses, what's the current wait time?
I don't have an average. I know I've approved a couple firearms licenses that were submitted earlier this year. I know with our officers doing the ABC licensing, it's now assigned to 2 detectives in our detective bureaus. So it's not, there's more accountability as far as the, doing the investigation. Those are not quick investigations. They have to be done thoroughly, but I know that they're, we don't get a whole lot of them coming in. So those officers are moving through those as expeditiously as they can.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Any other questions from the council? All right. Well, thank you very much. And obviously with the biggest department, we do have a wrap-up call. There might be some questions or issues that develop over the next month. But thank you very much for your time, Deputy Chief.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
Is health available? I know we're running a few minutes early.
Dr. Solomon, are you presenting for the Board of Health?
I'm not. Deborah is.
Okay, she's not on yet.
Yeah, I just texted her. She should be on shortly.
Okay. Oh, here she is. Deborah, can you unmute, please?
David, you can't do this now because I'm on speak.
Sorry.
Yes, I hear you. I'm sorry. Every time I try Zoom from here, I have a problem.
Sorry. Deborah, did you want any of the board members with you besides Dr. Solomon? I think there's one other board member here.
Josh Tenzer was invited. He's on the finance committee.
All right, then I'm going to promote him as well. Okay, the 3 of you are on, Deborah.
Okay. So you want me to go?
Well, Mr. Councilman Rosenzweig, what would you like them to do? Just get started?
Yeah, please get started.
Okay, I'm going to pretty much just go through the narrative and then add anything that I don't have in here. So our salary and wages request was significantly increased over last year's budget because there were changes last year to 2 staff people. it was a result of the salary ordinance for the Board of Health not being consistent with the union contract minimum and maximum salaries. And so one of those staff, I'm guessing, I don't have all the pieces, but I believe they took it to the attention of the city manager. And so they were given the higher salary that's in the union contract maximum. So that kind of threw things out of whack. Last year, several staff members resigned. We are still recruiting. We have made 3 offers, one for a director health officer, one for a health educator, and one for the second inspector, the registered environmental health specialist. They are all, as of today, supposed to start on the 15th of February. Let's see, the office manager position has not been filled yet. The board prefers to have the new director hire the office manager, mostly because of the close working relationship and, you know, what the job of office manager entails. And so that's been on hold. I have also been trying to recruit a youth health educator. That's the position that is partially funded by the hospital. I believe they gave a letter of intent to continue funding. Did they not, Michael?
Yeah, I believe they did, but I'll double check.
Okay. I do have one interview scheduled for that position on Thursday. And she is someone who lives out of state and is planning to relocate. That's the only reason why I'm seeing her. I have not had any other applications for that position as of yet. So we're a little bit behind when it comes to programming. I'm sure you can imagine. So the total that I have, I mean, I got another worksheet from Michael today and I'm still looking through it, but the total request in salaries that was requested in the final budget that was submitted is comes to a 4.48% increase. Most of that is because of the health officer salary. I was able to hire the health educator at lower than we anticipated because she actually is a fairly new graduate. And so this is a new position for her. She'll be basically, you know, starting from scratch in public health. The inspector was at the rate that we anticipated. She has 6 years experience, I believe it is. And so she's not new. She is from Englewood. She's familiar with the community. She is Colombian, so she will be greatly helpful with the Latino restaurants and the community in general. And let's see, our other expenses line stayed flat. And we do anticipate the need for some new PCs this year, simply because of the age of the ones that we have. Now they're about 7 years old, I think. The only other thing that I have, well, no, there's 2 things. One thing is the board recognized the need for an electronic medical record system. This will help the nurse who is working alone right now. And Franz was doing a capital request for that. We do also plan to use a bloodborne pathogen training that's online. Some of that expense is going to be charged to a grant This will enable whoever needs the training. We have to purchase a certain number of seats or licenses, I prefer to call them. This will allow whoever needs the training to go online 24/7, anytime they want, take the test. I think there's a little test, and then get a certificate that they passed, that they're trained in bloodborne pathogens. The rec department has requested 75 seats, and the health department has 7 staff that should participate in this. That's everyone except the administrative staff. That's really all I have right now, unless you have questions.
So you said you've hired a new director?
He was made an offer. We're still waiting for the complete results of his background, pre-employment checks, physical and everything. I expect to have them this week.
Okay, so that's like fantastic news, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
really. One of these days I can go back to being retired.
I know that. Okay, congratulations. Recruitment's so tough these days.
Good luck with that retirement, Deborah.
Yeah. Every time.
I keep saying I plan to do something, but I hadn't anticipated this.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. One thing is, we all hear about how difficult it is, to be a health officer these days, and how stressed Department of Healths are. Are there any programs you have for the staff in terms of burnout and support, that, maybe things that didn't exist more than 2 years ago, but certainly things have been accentuated with the pandemic?
We have, do you mean, as far as wellness?
Like, do you
employee
need any
wellness?
resources for, employee burnout?
We
which
did
is
actually,
special for, for health officers during a pandemic.
I didn't have anything specific for health officers. We did do early last year, and also one in 2020. I'm sorry, not 2021. In 2020, we had 2 separate wellness workshops that were done by Dr. Bernstein, who is a therapist, a PhD, and there were like 4 different ones in each seminar group that we did, and they addressed different topics, all that related to COVID and what the effects it was having on people's lives. I thought it was really, really helpful. Unfortunately, we didn't have that great attendance, but the staff were welcome to join. Some did participate. As far as the health officer situation, we have 1 staff person that took the test. I think this was her 4th time, and I just don't understand it. I think they purposely make it difficult, because most of you have been on council long enough to know that the state has been pushing for a long time for regionalization. And so the less health officers there are, the more you are in need of contracting with someone else to provide that service. And that's just my opinion, but I can't imagine why else someone would fail that test 4 times. I just can't, because they're not stupid. They make it tricky, according to, sources that I have, so that it could be more than one answer, but there is one answer that they want. And that's just the reality of it. There are not that many health officers out there, as the hiring committee can tell you. We had many applicants, but not many with a health officer license.
Council President, we also have an IEP program through the city that if there is a need for counseling, this is
Yes.
specific to counseling, not something through health insurance. We do highly promote that with staff to take advantage of that program, as well as their family members if they're going through a tough time. So that's always at hand with anyone.
Dr. Solomon, can I put you on the spot?
You can.
At least you know what you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. So I think wellness is very important. I think when with our former health officer, he made sure to have programming, including meetings with the staff, making sure there's been a focus on wellness. Now that Deborah has been in the acting director position, she too has been having, regular staff meetings as an opportunity to hear voices, hear people, thoughts. There hasn't been any specific programming this year as far as wellness, other than the program that Deborah mentioned. With the hire of I think our focus has largely been in the last 6+ months for seeking the health officer position to be filled, which has been a difficult endeavor, especially knowing that we had a fill-in health officer that really was so active in our community, and really, Deborah has played that pivotal role in leading the department to where it is today, to be able to hire this new health officer into this position. The health officer that we are hoping will be approved for hire is a very well-seasoned health officer and a physician. And we believe that he will be a great fit within the community, and he'll be able to then offer a lot of these programming opportunities, not only to the community, but, as you're mentioning, within our own health department, to hopefully continue to have a very successful and strong workforce within our community.
Thank you.
I did also reach out to Dr. Bernstein earlier this year about the possibility of her doing another group of workshops, and she was interested in doing that. She has, however, been not so well of late, so I didn't push her. I will reach out to her again before the, in a couple of months, I will say.
My last question is, at tomorrow's council meeting, we're going to be discussing municipal alliance funds. I think that's something traditionally the health department has utilized for different programming. Do you know which programming it's been mostly for?
Since COVID, funding was cut significantly. The reason for that is the funding for this comes strictly from fines for DUI.
Okay.
And with more people off the road, there were not as many DUIs. So when that happened, we did have before that 6 different organizations that were providing programs under the Alliance in addition to the health department. And when the funding was cut, the only equitable way I could see to handle it was to have the health department run all the programs, and then as we got more funding back, then add those people back in. So right now, I have been trying to get some programming going. I honestly can't remember how much got done last year, but what's in the budget for this year is to do some workshops that the Center for Alcohol and Drug Resources will provide. They are workshops for students, and there are workshops for teachers and parents, and there are workshops for parents and community. I do have a meeting with the school SAC tomorrow to discuss these programs, the SAC that student assistance counselor. The person that I was dealing with previously, she left the district the week right before Thanksgiving. And so I was just able last week to find a new person and see if we can't get some of these programs done this year. I anticipate that for 2023, the program is going to remain the same. That's the information that I have right now, that the funding has not changed. It's frustrating too, because the health educator and the youth health educator were key people in getting these programs done. So it's been a little bit tough, but we're doing our best to, make sure that we use the funds and get the programming done. So I should know more tomorrow morning, actually, about that.
So does anyone on the council have questions for Deborah or the Board of Health members?
Yeah, if I may,
Please.
thank you for a stupendous job and for coming back from retirement, and Eliza for keeping an eye on the health of our city. We have a real talent of a nurse that pays house calls. But the question is, do we need more than that one nurse? And if so, our strategic partners with ShopRite that has a pharmaceutical, with Englewood Health that now has an urgent primary care center next to ShopRite, are these things that the city can get involved in without legal entanglements?
The answer to the question is yes, she can use some help. I was unaware of how stretched she was when I came back. And I had basically 2 to 3 days to get the budget done when I came back. So I did not know that her need when I did the budget. And she has since brought it to my attention that it was discussed previously. We do, however, now have a grant application we just submitted last week, I believe, for additional COVID vaccination supplemental funding. And this grant, it has to have something different in it than the original grant that we applied for. So what we've done is specifically ask for 2 LPNs and 1 clerical person to help her out. The LPNs to help with vaccination tasks, and the clerical person to help with data entry. That takes a great deal of her time. So if we can get that done, then we won't have to affect the budget. I'm not sure what the award date is. It can't be too far because the grant is starting from March 1st. So I expect we'll probably hear something in February about that.
What about the hospital, the new center that they have? Are there legal entanglements for us partnering with them if they have personnel deployed there?
I'm not sure, actually. I can check on that. Let me write this down.
In other words, since the shots are free and they have a public position now right by ShopRite, and it's user-friendly for handicap accessibility, maybe as a stopgap, sit down with them and see if there's something, or your board should see if there's something that you can do together.
I just, I don't know. I have to check simply because I know that our provider, which is Ms. Murdoch, she has through the city malpractice insurance. So I don't know whether that would have any effect. The hospital staff, I'm sure, have the same, and whether that would have any effect on this particular partnership that you're talking about. It may be possible, but I have to check.
Yeah, in other words, I would assume that the malpractice coverage would be based on the facility. If the city wasn't available to do certain shots or at-home visits and the hospital did, then it would go under their carrier. You know, the
Yeah.
referral would simply be made.
Yeah. I just, you know what, I will check with our board attorney and see if he knows of any reason why we cannot. I don't think there is, but I'm not sure. Right now, what we're trying to do with the first COVID vaccination funding, supplemental funding, is the goal was to take the vaccinations out to the community, which is what we're working on now. You saw the one flyer for the Elks Lodge, which was unfortunately postponed. We have one now scheduled for, actually two scheduled for Community Baptist. These are the things that we could use, you know, help with the vaccinations if we had the personnel. I can certainly check and see if the hospital is willing to help us out with this in the interim. Englewood Health.
So just to comment on that, there are many things that we have partnered with Englewood Health on from community programming perspective. However, when the department obtained specific vaccines, is under our guidance and supervision that those vaccines have to be administered. So these are not vaccines that we could turn over to Englewood Health for them to administer. Obviously, our goals align in the sense that we're looking to vaccinate the masses, the underrepresented minorities, as many people as possible. So I think the goals are aligned, but the issue remains obviously personnel and time. So if there's anything that we could do to partner with them to further the goal, that's what we intend and what we have been doing. However, from the standpoint of physically administering our vaccines that are given to the department by a grant and also monitored by the state as far as certain goals that we have to answer to the state, which include vaccinations, not only COVID, but flu and some other monitoring things with regard to vaccination. I'm not sure that their staff would necessarily be helpful to us unless someone is coming under a voluntary perspective, but we can look into whatever partnerships we can, but I hope that kind of clarifies some of that.
Thank you.
We're also trying, one of our board members is the director of the nursing school at FDU, and she has offered to have the students who are doing practicums to help out also. We're still working on that though. With that, you know, we haven't gotten to that part yet, but that's out there as additional support.
Mayor, any other questions?
No, thank you.
Yes, Deborah, thank you for returning to where you should have never left. But I
Thanks.
still think that the health department provides an invaluable service to Englewood. You know, the move that you alluded to with regionalization would not work well for Englewood, and I am, you know, elated that we have a health department with its own identity, and hope that it continues for a very long time, because we do have specific needs here, and our populations, you know, while health is health, but our population doesn't look like Bergen County. It is, it's certainly unique, and you all have created a niche, and you filled it amazingly well, and I hope it continues for a very long time. Having said that, are there things that the health department sees that we should be aware of as a municipality, you know, and things that, you know, we should be doing and changing direction and provide, you know, helping you to find resources to meet? Are there things out there that you see that we should know about that we're not talking about as a city?
I think one issue that some of you might be able to help with, I'm not sure though. Finding people to volunteer for Municipal Alliance or the CERT team is next to impossible. I mean, no matter who I ask or where I go, prior to this anyway, I was always had a sheet out, at every program, so that people who were interested in the programs that we were doing could participate themselves and help us to better educate the residents of Englewood. So your contacts, maybe people who would be willing to help with things like this. Our Alliance list, I can send you a copy of the different segments of the community that are supposed to be represented. Some of them, we have no representation at all. And the people that are on the list, some of them I've never seen. So I'm not even sure how they got on there. That's something that you could help with if you know someone who can spend a little bit of time once a month. And the CERT team that we have, actually I think there's still 6 people that are listed on the team. Only one person has regularly responded to, any type of event that we needed them for. And that's just not enough. So that, there's basically not worth having the team if we don't have people to participate. I am sending one staff person. This was supposed to be done before I left, but COVID interrupted. One staff person is going to be taking the CERT program coordinator training and will take over, but right now there's hardly anything to take over. These people are people who could help the first responders, by directing the crowd where to go or where to park, or helping in an emergency situation. Whatever they need to have done, they can tell us what they need, and they can provide it because they've been trained. But I think that might be part of the reason why there's been little participation, is that they've been given nothing to do. But right. Again, that's only a few people, so there's not a big job that they could do, with that many people. But any amount of people is better than nothing.
You're absolutely right. Thank you again, Deborah.
Okay.
Can I make one additional comment?
Okay.
So in addition to everything that Deborah was mentioning, it's hard to know when this came up. Was it pre-COVID and the lull of COVID? But one of the initiatives that the board had discussed with our former health officer was the concept of an eco-friendly or environmentally green city, and what kind of initiatives that would take to move us in that direction. I think, now is a good opportunity with our new health officer to reimagine what that could look like. And I think it will require a strong partnership with the council to move that type of agenda forward. So that would be something we'd be looking to do.
Great, and that's something we definitely like to help with.
Also, the Environmental Commission, if you want to make a presentation to them, maybe break out a joint committee.
Yes, that was part of the initial movement to join it with that committee and to promote. We had some members of the board who were the liaisons, but I think COVID got in the way at the time, but it's a good opportunity to revisit it.
Okay, any other questions from the council? Okay. Well, thank you again. And again, thank you, Deborah, for your service to the city. It's enormously appreciated.
Thank you, Dr. Rosenzweig.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.
All right, so at this time we'll move to public session. So if anyone from the public would like to address the council, now's the time. So please raise your hand within the Zoom function and you'll be unmuted.
Minutes?
I'm sorry?
2 minutes?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, first is Diane Jensen. Diane, go ahead.
Hello, Diane. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start my clock. Hi, Diane Jansen, 589 Ridgeland Terrace. You know, we had 4 meetings tonight, and that gives 30 seconds a meeting. Do you really feel that's adequate for community input? That's my first comment. My second comment, all of my comments on the 4 pertain to public health. I feel it's a little disgraceful that we have the court talking about employees that have to work in physical plant conditions where there are leaks, carpet that had been wet that had never been removed, the same with boxes. I'm concerned about the employees and any residents who might visit. This is a need for immediate public health action. This is not a budget process. This is an emergency and a liability for both the employees as well as the residents from a financial standpoint, if should we be sued. So that's number one, and that took a minute. So I'm now going to have to cut myself short on the others. With respect to the Board of Health, we're hoping that they'll make house calls and do outreach for COVID testing, vaccinations, boosters, and include people like the 111 West Street. With respect to the police, traffic violations are important. Instead, Mayor and Council President, both of you focused more on gun applications. That's an embarrassment. The public health is at risk, and one of those risks are for safety of traffic and speeders. Please get it together. We're also concerned that, I'm sorry, I'm going into my notes here. My time is up, so I only was able to do 2 comments in 2 minutes. Please excuse me.
Thank you.
Diane. Next is Peter Jensen.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, City Administration. Pete Jansen, 589 Ridgeland Terrace. I want to talk about an underserved community in Englewood, and that's the people that walk on the streets and drive on the roads. These people are underserved because their safety is at risk. They need to have better safety from cars that are speeding. And if you listen to what the people said today, traffic tickets are off in the courts. It's not as many traffic tickets. However, if you go onto the streets, you'll hear the complaints from everybody, including your own Traffic Advisory Council, which has said people are driving faster than they ever had before. This COVID situation is like a free-for-all on the roads. The police are not patrolling because the cars are speeding. It's a direct relationship. So if you can get the police to do more patrolling and have speed checks, and you know the streets, it's Lafayette, Jones Road, Hudson, West Hudson. It's all the main straight roads where people try to make time. And that's unsafe for anybody walking in those areas. and it's a free-for-all on the streets, and we're missing in revenues. Let's look at the last 5 years of traffic tickets and the last 5 years of traffic-related revenues in the courts. Get those 5 years of history, and then you'll know that we have a big opportunity we're missing. Please get that data for next time as a recap to your budget meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nobody else has their hand raised.
Okay, so thank you. So we will close the public session now. Is there any need for a closed
I don't think so.
session?
Yeah. Did we need a closed session tonight?
I'm not aware of any items
Okay,
unless.
I think it's just the pro forma on the,
Yeah, I just put it on the agenda.
okay.
Okay.
All right then. All right. So we have another council meeting tomorrow night. So at this point, I'll ask, is there a motion to adjourn?
Nobody wants to go home?
What happens if no one motions to adjourn?
I'm not used to ending at 9 o'clock and anything
We
with
just
this
stay on
crew,
until
you know?
7:30 tomorrow night? I'll just carry my iPad around. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I think Councilwoman Maren made the motion.
Okay. Am I allowed to second?
I think so, yes, you can second.
Okay, I'll second it.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Thank you all.
Everyone. Good night.
Good
See
night,
you tomorrow.
everybody. Take care.
Night.
My cats are driving me crazy.